Hello guys, good morning. I am with you OP Kamboj and today we are going to start the first lesson of plus 1 standard, the book Hornbill, and the first lesson name is The Portrait of a Lady. In this lesson, the author Khuswant Singh explains the complete life story of his grandmother. When the lesson starts, we can say the grandmother, Khuswant Singh grandmother was a fat lady, was a short lady, and she was little a bent lady, and she used to put one hand on the waist to make her balance, to move here and there. She used to hobble here and there in the home, especially putting one hand on the waist to make the balance, and the other hand she used to carry the rosary that was made of beads, and her lips were always moving in her prayer. And Khushwant Singh used to see all these things here. In this way, he has explained that his grandmother was an old lady since last 100 years. Khushwant Singh's parents were settled in the city at the time. Khushwant Singh has to remain with his grandmother at his home. And here especially, what were the activities made by the or done by the grandmother for Khushwant Singh? He explains that early in the morning she used to wake Khushwant Singh, and she used to make him ready for school, and she always packed the things like pen, pencil, an earthen pot, and one wooden slate that was already washed and plastered with yellow chalk. These all things were put into a bundle, and that bundle was handed over to Khushwant Singh before going to school. And one special thing that was this: she also used to cook one stale chapati on which she used to spread butter and sugar, and some more chapatis she also made, especially for the stray dogs when they used to come back, and at the time they used to throw the crumbs and pieces of the stale chapatis to the stray dogs, and stray dogs used to growl at each other to get each and every piece of the breads. But here, before going to school, what happened? Grandmother used to go with Khushwant Singh to the school, because school was attached to the temple. This was a special thing here, and Khushwant Singh used to sit in the school in the veranda in the row, and they used to learn the alphabets and their own learnings. And his grandmother used to sit in the temple. She used to sing the prayer, and her lips were moving all the time in the priest, and she was also counting the beads of the rosary. And when the school was over, they both came together to home, and at the returning time, coming back, they used to throw the pieces of the chapatis, stale chapatis, to the stray dogs. In this way their days were passed. And when in the second incident, when the author and the grandmother were also called to the city by Khushwant Singh parents, this was a turning point between the friendship of these two people, grandmother and Khushwant Singh, because this time Khushwant Singh used to go to school in his motor bus, and grandmother was not able to move with him. She had to stop at home. In the earlier days, she used to wake him up and make him ready, especially for the school, and the grandmother used to sit at home, and she always was counting the beads of the rosary, and her lips were moving, and she used to wear, at the first incident, she always used to wear the white sari, and it looked like the mountains with white snow. Means she was no doubt a religious lady, a spiritual lady. Even her height was very short, but she was really a beautiful lady, and she was the lady of her own rules and regulations and principles. So here grandmother was not able to move with Khuswant Singh, and Khuswant Singh used to go to school in a motor bus, and Khuswant Singh used to tell his grandmother that today they have learnt the science, English, and the other things in this way. Grandmother did not like English. She did not like science also, as Khuswant Singh told about that they had taught him gravity also, some other things also, but these all things were not liked by grandmother. And one day Khuswant Singh told his grandmother that the teachers had taught him the music also. At that time grandmother, after listening this, she became totally frustrated, and she did not bear this thing, and she told Khuswant Singh that music is not good for the gentlefolk. Music is considered only for the prostitutes and the harlots and the beggars, and this is not good for the gentlefolk, and this is not fit for us. That's why she always used to blame the teachers, especially who used to teach teach her grandson there in school. But later on, when what happened, when the author decided to go university, at the time their rest of friendship was also broken. Here in second incident, when the school when Khuswant Singh used to go to school, English school, she used to spend her time throwing the pieces of the bread to the sparrows. And when he went to university, at the time grandmother no longer was able to move with Khuswant Singh there in the university. So in that case she used to live, and she also was busy in feeding the sparrows, and she did not leave even single day praying God and counting the beads of the rosary. And in the same way these days were passed, and when later on what happened, when it was decided by them that the author had to move to abroad, at the time grandmother had to accept her loneliness. She very patiently accepted the seclusion, and she accepted the loneliness, but the author, means the narrator Khuswant Singh, was tensed and worried. He was thinking about his going to abroad, that he is going to abroad and for 5 years, and when he would come back, till then his grandmother would not be would no more. But this not happened actually. When he had to go to abroad at that time, on the day especially, grandmother herself went with Khuswant Singh to see him off at the railway station. And one thing is to note down here, especially at the railway station, even the Khuswant Singh was tensed and worried, and grandmother was not sad. She accepted her loneliness, and she kissed Khuswant Singh's forehead. And here Khuswant Singh thought that it would be the last mark on his forehead. Perhaps my grandmother would not live long until my coming back. But as Khuswant Singh went to abroad, and now what happened? At home, she, in the same way, usual way, she used to count the beads of rosary. She never forget to pray the God. She moved here and there in the white sari in the same way. She used to throw the pieces of breads to the sparrows, and she always busy in spinning wheel. And when she used to spin the wheel, at the time hundreds and thousands of sparrows used to come and sit on her arms, legs, even on her head also. And she never rebuked the sparrows. The sparrows loved loved her. And grandmother loved the sparrows, and there was a great friendship between sparrows, and attachment between sparrows and grandmother. In this way, she used to pass the time, and the happiest time, especially for half an hour in the afternoon, she used to throw the bites and the pieces and the crumbs of the breads to the sparrows, and she used to say that this was her happiest moment in a day. And especially on the day when Khuswant Singh came back from abroad, at the time grandmother herself went to railway station to receive him, and she wanted to celebrate the coming of his grandson like the warriors. And on the same day, earlier she prayed God, she counted the beads of the rosary, but in the evening a great change happened in her. She called the neighborhood ladies, all the neighborhood ladies, and she all the ladies gathered there, especially to celebrate the arrival of her grandson. And she took a drum, and she started beating the drum very loudly, and she started dancing and enjoying the day. And in this way, everybody was persuading her not please stop, you will be tired, but she was not accepting the request of the everybody request of the family members. And what happened in the evening time, she stopped, but she was overstrained. On the next day she fell ill, and on the bed she lay out, and her lips were moving, and in one hand she was holding the rosary, and she was counting the beads of the rosary. And after some time, what happened, she was no more, and she was died. And when she died, the family members means they took the dead body of their grandmother on the ground, and they put a red shroud on her dead body, and the preparations of the funeral were being made. At that time, a lot of thousands of sparrows came and sat on the dead body, but they were very sorry and sad. They were also mourning, weeping. And when the funeral was going on, at the time the sparrow sat on the dead body, and they did not chirp on that day. They did the pieces thrown by the mother of Khuswant Singh, the sparrows did not eat even a single piece of bread. They also were feeling very sad and sorrowful. And next thing, if such thing happened with you, then you can narrate the story in your own words. Until the next video, khush raho, abad raho. Okay guys, bye bye, thank you.